if we base the future of a country on a man, that country have no future. So in this sense, I think a leader and good leaders should always plan after them. When I'm gone, who is going to be there? Because if we have that plan, if you have that plan as a leader, you know when the time has come that you don't need to be there strongly to talk anymore. You need to be a grandfather relaxed at home because you have done your part. You cannot save this world. It is not only happening in the case of Mugabe. It happened all across Africa. We see these people who are old, but they refuse to leave politics. And it is hurting us a lot. Because for you to play this very sophisticated game as politics, you need to be very sharp. Your mind needs to be working full time. But if you're an old man, how can you do this? I just want a thought on that from you. Then we'll move into what can be the lesson to learn from Mugabe.
Yes, you are very right. I think one of the mistakes that was done was not to include the number of times that an individual can be re-elected into office. And we are happy that our constitution now stipulates that an individual can only run for 2 terms. And one of the mistakes that we also did was when, during the time of Robert Mugabe, there was a new concept that emerged, which was called it was the one-man center of power. So Robert Mugabe became the Alpha and the Omega. He was the center of power. Nobody would do anything else other than Robert Mugabe. And the other thing is, when we give somebody executive powers, he is subject to the executive powers may be subject to abuse. And also, I think one other thing that we should also learn from Robert Mugabe is that, especially in terms of succession, is that at some point when you get old, when you feel it because usually when men get old and you have a young wife, the young wife tends to drive you. And this is what we saw. Robert Mugabe, we felt that he was being driven by his wife. And most of the decisions and how she spoke in public fora were an indication of an individual who had usurped the power of Robert Mugabe. And he did not give enough power to those who should have who were deputizing him, so that they can do the other work. He had the sharp brains, he could do all sorts of things, but he had also equally sharp brains in terms of his vice presidents, whom he would have chosen. He should have given them the opportunity to run the country and ensure that they are prepared for ascendance to power. But that was never to be. And it is a big lesson that we need to learn, that when you choose leaders, wherever on the continent and on the globe, we should make sure that we have term limits. It should not be choosing a leader and then you give the leader too much powers even to change the constitution. We should give term limits so that after those term limits, he or she would have done his best for the country and allow others to do so. And we are glad that in Zimbabwe, the term limits now, there are 2. So whoever comes into power, if allowed to have 2 limits, after the second term, he will not be able to run for president.
No man is perfect all around. But in fact, being a leader doesn't mean you are the one who doesn't make mistakes. We are talking about it so that we can learn from it. It doesn't mean that he is an angel, but it means he has done great things that we can be proud of. But he have also made some error that makes him a human being.
I want to add something that Robert Mugabe will be known for.
Please go.
when the sanctions were imposed on Zimbabwe, people thought that Zimbabwe would collapse. But there is one attribute that we have seen across the globe of Zimbabweans. They are hardworking and resilient. And it is because of their hard work and resilience that have seen Zimbabwe being where it is today. It is also because of the hard work and the resilience and the education that has seen many of Zimbabweans occupying high offices across across the globe. And this, we give it to Robert Mugabe for what he did to the Zimbabweans, particularly when he said, we are going to empower you, you should be masters of your own destiny. And that is who we are today. And that we give it up to Robert Mugabe.
Thank you so much for that, sir. All right, to conclude the conversation, what will be your final message? I repeat again, this is a great person who deserves the recognition for what he has done. So, to the person who is listening, to the young Africans who are going to be the great men and women of tomorrow, what will be your message to them to conclude it? Please go.
In conclusion, let me reiterate what the current president of the Republic of Zimbabwe said. Robert Mugabe remains our leader, the founding father of Zimbabwe. He is a man that all of us respect, and he remains our hero in Zimbabwe because he is the founding father. He sacrificed most of his life for us to be who we are today. If for the young ones, there are so many things that we need to learn from Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe was an educationist and person who believed in education. We need to learn. Among the leaders that we have known of, I think there might not be anyone or very few who were of the caliber of Robert Mugabe in terms of education. He had close to 9 degrees that he worked for. And as youngsters, they need to learn they should learn to acquire knowledge so that they can be as sharp as Robert Mugabe was. The other thing that we want people to understand about Robert Mugabe and learn from him is principledness. He was a principled leader. He was a leader who could say one thing today and could say it tomorrow. He did not change posts. He was a man of integrity. He was a man who believed in the emancipation of the black majority. And he was proud to be a Zimbabwean. And we should, all of us as Zimbabweans and Nigerians, all of them, Ghanaians, all of them, they should be proud to be Ghanaians. Those who are Nigerians to be Nigerians, Zimbabweans to be Nigerians, because that is who we are. That is why we see Robert Mugabe saying to Tony Blair, keep your England and I will keep my Zimbabwe. He was an individual proud to be who he is. And we should also be able to say the same, not to pander to the whims and caprices of our erstwhile enemies just because they come from the Western world. The other thing that we should also learn from Robert Mugabe, it is that we are masters of our own destiny. Countries on Africa can only become what we want them to be through our own hard work. By turning the resources that we have, beneficiating them, and making sure that we plow back in the development of our country. Robert Mugabe insisted that we need to be masters of our own destiny as Zimbabweans and as Africans. Africa can only be what we want it to be if us as Africans take up the mantle and put our shoulders to the deck and say, we are the masters of our own destiny. We can have an Africa that we want of our own choice. And from Robert Mugabe, we give it to him because he made sure that he empowered people and said to people, you should not be hewers of wood and drawers of water all the time. Let us not look for employment all the time. Let us create employment. That is where the empowerment policies of Robert Mugabe touched on. Be creators of employment and not seekers of employment. Because we had grown to be hewers of wood and drawers of water for a very long time, and we felt comfortable and we were in that comfort zone. But Robert Mugabe wanted us to be people who can create employment by owning the means of production and also making sure that we exploit the resources that we have. And lastly, Robert Mugabe will forever be known as a complex man. Complex in the sense that what he believed in, many may not come to understand. And it is my desire, and it should also be the desire of many, to make sure that we continue to read and interrogate the life of Robert Mugabe so that we understand who he was and what he intended to see our country, Zimbabwe, and Africa to be. And with that, I will forever respect Robert Mugabe as our leader in ZANU-PF and as our leader in Zimbabwe and as a Pan-Africanist on the continent.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. This is really very important. It's been an honor to talk about a great man like Robert Mugabe, and I believe that we have learned a lot from him through your exposition, and we are really grateful for you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's my pleasure.